Human Sciences educator with Purdue Extension up here in Dubois County. And we'll let Megan introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I am Megan Brothers, and I'm the Health and Human Sciences educator in Vanderburgh County.
Yes. We are so happy that you're joining us today, and we're going to be talking about alternative ways to save, looking at different kinds of savings accounts and how they might work for you. And then we'll talk a little bit about feeding the pig and how we're going to feed those savings accounts. We chose this topic this week because it is America Saves Week. So that is just a national campaign to try and get people thinking about ways to save. A few Zoom reminders. I'm sure we are all very proficient at Zoom at this point in time, but if you don't mind muting yourself while others are talking, if you have a question, you can raise your virtual hand and that'll kind of pop you to the top of the list so we see you, and that is under the reactions button, or you can type it into the chat and that'll pop up for us to see, and then we can discuss. So one other little thing, we are going to be recording this session so that others can view it at a later time, or you'll get the link to the video and you can watch it yourself again later if you'd like. So I am going to start sharing my screen here. If it'll go. There we go. All right, so like I said, today we are going to be discussing alternative ways to save, looking at different types of accounts and how we feed them. So really there are three main categories of savings accounts. We have our emergency fund savings, our short-term savings, and our long-term savings. Your financial goal, what you want to accomplish, is what will determine what type of savings account is best for you to choose. So let's start with the emergency fund. An emergency fund is an interest-bearing bank account with the sole purpose of being support when an emergency arises. So experts suggest starting with about $1,000. They're just kind of as a safety net. And then once all of your debt is paid down except for your home, you can start saving to fully fund that emergency fund. If you live in a stable 2-income household, they say that 3 months worth of bills. So you take your total bills from 1 month, multiply it times 3, and that amount would be sufficient for an emergency fund for your family. However, if you live in a 1-income household, if you're self-employed, you work on commission, or somebody in your family has a chronic medical condition, they suggest saving up to 6 months worth of bills. So again, that monthly amount times 6 would be your fully funded emergency fund. This fund is to be used when life happens. So those bumps, bruises, twists and turns that come our way, things like medical bills that we can't put off paying, car repairs, or maybe you need a new furnace. I've heard a lot of those happening here, especially in the cold. Of course, that's when your furnace goes out, right? So those would be the things that we would use our emergency fund for, things that we absolutely cannot wait any longer to pay for. An important thing to remember is that these are goals. So we don't expect you to have 6 months worth of money to pay your bills, right? So this is a goal that we're slowly building and working towards. It takes some time, so be patient with yourself. Okay. The next type of saving are your short-term savings. So this is money that you plan to use in 2 to 5 years. So somewhere in that time range. It obviously could be shorter. Some examples are vacation. Maybe you really want to go to Disney, so you'd start saving now for it. A home remodel, new device, a new computer, a new iPhone, you know, those come out every few years. So saving now for that $1,000 iPhone, right? Or holiday savings. This is something that I use myself with 4 kids. Christmas can get a bit expensive if we don't save for it throughout the year. So that's something every month we just put a little bit aside to work towards our goal for Christmas time. You can look for goal setter savings accounts. Many banks or online, whether brick and mortar or online, have these goal setter savings accounts that are made specifically for short-term savings. They usually don't have penalties for withdrawing your money, and they might even reward you when you reach your goal. So that's a nice little added bonus. So the next type of saving was the long-term savings. So this is money you don't plan to use in the next 5 years. You want it to sit and grow. So this money does have a goal. So there is a goal associated with this long-term money, but it's just a goal that's either 5 years or more in the future. Examples of long-term savings accounts are the college funds, retirement savings, certificate of deposits, so the CDs, which we'll talk about in a bit, or mutual funds and bonds. 4 points to consider when we're talking about these long-term savings. Research and compare the interest rates, but know that these rates will fluctuate. So it's best to diversify or invest in different types of long-term savings accounts to kind of cover the ups and downs that you'll see. Look into the minimum amount, that's hard to say, to open these accounts, okay? So each type of account is going to have a different minimum amount of money that you're going to need to open it, as well as account fees. So there could be account fees to open it, there could be account fees to manage it, or even fees to withdraw your money. So pay attention to those and see what's going to work best for you. And lastly, look at the maturity date, or when are you allowed to take your money out? Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit more in the CDs, but there are some accounts where your money is tied up for a certain amount of time until it matures. Okay, and regardless of what type of savings you choose, what's important is to set that goal and to start saving now, because even small little bits can end up in big rewards. All right, so let's start chatting about these actual accounts. So what does a short-term account look like? There are 3 traditional types of short-term accounts. The first one is your traditional savings account. So these are usually the low interest rate, low annual percentage yield accounts. They're great for your emergency fund and those really, really short snippets of time that you want to save money, like if you're going on vacation in the fall, or the holiday spending accounts. Those are great for this time because the interest doesn't matter, right? By the time that you would accrue a significant amount of interest anyway, it would be negligible. The next type is the high interest savings account. We can offer interest rates and APYs above the traditional accounts. They can be found at both brick and mortar banks as well as online banks. The online banks tend to offer you a better interest percent because they don't have the upkeep of a building. So they're able to offer a bit better rates. However, there is maybe not, you can't go to an ATM and get that money today. You have to wait for the transfer and all. So if it's an instance where you think you might need your money immediately, a brick and mortar may be a better choice. So just something else to consider when you're choosing where your account is stored. Lastly, the money market savings accounts. This is a blend between a traditional savings account and a checking account. They usually offer better interest rates than just the traditional account alone, and they allow you to actually write checks out of them. So that is an advantage that you have with them. However, money market accounts usually have a higher minimum deposit to open that account. So one drawback there. Again, looking at your goal, what you want to accomplish as you determine what sort of account you want to open. All right, moving on to long-term accounts. So the first one, you heard me mention it a little bit earlier, is a CD or certificate of deposit. These are time deposits, meaning you leave your money for a set period of time that is agreed upon when you open the account. So the time to maturity is what the term you'll hear, time to maturity, can range from 30 days to 60 months, which is 5 years. The longer you agree to leave your money in this account, the better the interest rate. There is a system of using CDs that stacks them so they come to maturity at different times throughout the year or years, so that you always continuously have kind of that interest building and the money flowing in and out. So that if you're interested in CDs, definitely look up that sort of way to use them. They are beneficial in that they generally have a higher interest rate than some of your other accounts, and they're safe. They're risk-free, right? That's your money you put in, you get that money back out. You're not gambling any of it away. Unlike our bonds, stocks, and mutual funds, which can be a little bit more risky. So a bond is essentially a loan request from a corporation or the government for a set period of time. So you essentially become the bank, and you are lending that money for a certain amount of time. And in the end, you get your principal, so the money you put in, plus interest back. So they are, again, a very secure way to invest. Next, we have our stocks, which is represents an ownership in a portion of a public corporation or shareholdership. So you essentially become partners, part owner, or a shareholder in this company. The success of the investment depends on the company's success. So a lot of shareholders get their money or turn a profit by selling their stock when the company is doing well and the price has gone up. So they make a profit on that stock. Or they may choose to hold on to it and collect dividends, which are quarterly payments that are given to the shareholders when the company is making a profit. So you essentially get a piece of that profit depending on how many shares or what percentage of the company you own. Excuse me. Okay, so lastly, then mutual funds. Those are a collection of investments, including stocks and bonds. So it provides that instant diversification. So not all your money in one pot, it's spread out. I think we've all heard, don't put your eggs in the same basket or in one basket. So this is multiple baskets, making it less risky than if you were to buy individual stocks. It helps to cover those natural fluctuations, the ups and downs that you see in the stock market. Excuse me. Okay. So the last type of savings accounts that we're going to talk about are the long-term specialty savings accounts. These are not the only specialty savings accounts. We're just going to talk about the 3 most popular. There are tons of them out there. So definitely look to your financial planner, whether that's at your bank or you choose an outside corporation. Google is great just to kind of familiarize yourself with the options that are out there. So take a little time and dive into the internet, see what you can find. First order is the 529 savings plan. So this one is commonly called the college savings plan or a 529 college savings plan. Sometimes you'll hear people just say 529, and this is what they're talking about. It's a tax advantage savings account designed specifically for education expenses. So sorry, I have a tickle in my throat, of course. As long as the money is used for qualifying expense, it will remain federally tax-free. So that is a huge advantage of this sort of savings account. Qualifying expenses can include college, but it can also include K-12 tuition. It can include some apprenticeships and even loan repayment. So if you have an expense that may fall under this category, definitely check it out. It might be tax-free. Next would be the health savings account, or you'll hear that abbreviated HSA. It is a tax-deductible, tax-free account that you can use to cover medical expenses. So HSAs are a little bit different than a flexible spending account or an FSA that you might hear associated with some of your insurances. HSAs roll over with you and they follow you from job to job. So once the money is in the account, it's your money, it stays with you. You never lose that like an FSA. Unused money can be invested. So talk to whoever holds your health savings account and talk to them about investing that money. It's really useful to kind of grow that amount through investments so that you can cover medical expenses in the future, like in retirement. Speaking of retirement then, last plan we're going to talk about are retirement savings plans. So many options out there, but the most popular are 401k or an IRA, which is an individual retirement account. A 401k allows both you and your employer to deposit into the same account. An IRA is just something that you deposit into yourself. Each plan has its own advantages. So again, do a little research, talk to a professional and see what is going to be best for your retirement goals. Are there any questions about any of these different kinds of accounts before we move on? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Megan then. Technical difficulties.
Okay, I couldn't unmute myself. So, hello everyone. And Chelsea, you may have to give me remote control back again. That's a very interesting little difference there. All right, so let's keep chatting here. So, where do you go for help? So, Chelsea just provided lots of really great information, and you might have been scribbling lots of notes or saying, what and how do I find out more? So we don't specifically endorse any specific banks or financial advisors or anyone like that. But if you want help and if you want someone to walk you through all of those options, because like Chelsea said, we just very briefly touched the surface as to all of the different options that would be available. So check with your bank. And if your bank doesn't have the kinds of accounts that you're interested in, then check other banks. Sometimes you can do bank shopping around and try to find whatever is going to help you meet those financial goals. You can also work with financial advisors or other kinds of individual consultants. There's a lot of online options now too. And so you can find someone that you like, that you work with, that can help you. And there are a ton of different people and opportunities out there. So do your research, ask your friends for referrals. That's how a lot of businesses, especially independent kind of firms and stuff, grow, is through referrals. So ask your friends, who do they use? Who do they prefer? So they can help you get started. They can answer questions. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll sit down with you and say, okay, what do you want to save money for? What are your goals? Are you just wanting to pay off debt? Are you wanting to save for college? Are you wanting to, have a great retirement? Are you wanting to save beyond retirement? All those things. They ask those questions and then they help you come up with the best plan for your budget and where you're at your level. So great opportunities to get additional information beyond just trying to figure it on your own. So we share different ways to save, but we have to figure out where possibly the money is going to come from for the saving. So the biggest thing is to pay yourself first. When you are looking at saving money, we have to change our view of where our money's going, really. And so many times, and a lot of these different kinds of accounts, and especially retirement plans and the HSA plans as well, they will be able to take the money out of your paycheck or whatever income you have. A lot of them can be set up where they take money before it's even taxed, so that you don't see that money. You don't actually have to pay someone money. You don't have to, send a check or send a direct deposit. It will just come right out and you don't see it. And it can be just an automatic thing every month. And like I said, some of those are set up to where they come out pre-tax. So there's an even more bigger benefit potentially for you that way. So check with your employer or check with, a financial advisor if you have other sources of income too, to pay yourself first. So start that savings, set that money aside every month first. Another really important thing to do, especially if you have goals for, okay, I know every year when it's Christmas time, we are struggling to figure out how we're going to buy gifts, or we are, at the end of a month and we're struggling to figure out how we're going to pay all those bills. So it helps to be able to find leaks in our spending. So just like we might have drain leaks, and just like we might have, leaks in vents and in pipes and things, we have to figure out where that's coming from. So when we create really good, what we call spending savings plans, some people call it budgets. When you create a good spending savings plan, you can find those leaks pretty easily. If I were just to say, where are your spending leaks? You might not really be able to tell me. Some people are really good and say, oh, I have trouble with this, or I have trouble with that. But when you can sit down and actually write it out and track where your money's going, then you can find those leaks that then help you find, okay, if I can plug that leak, that'll open up this amount of money that then can potentially go into that savings. And we have a really fantastic program for that we're going to talk about a little bit later, called Where Does Your Money Go? That helps you find those leaks and helps you come up with spending plans so that you can make the most of the money that you have. But sometimes it helps to just add a little bit. And especially if you're looking at jump starting that emergency fund level, there are ways that you can maybe add extra income real quickly to be able to build up a little bit of that emergency fund to then be able to long-term add to it. So a big thing that is really helpful, and if you are a Facebook user, there's a lot of this happening right now on Facebook, but do a purge and sell it. Yard sales used to be huge and they still are somewhat, but now, especially post our current COVID, online yard sales become huge. So get rid of stuff as you're doing your decluttering. Joe, our colleague Joe, has done some programming on decluttering. So while you're decluttering, you can then put that stuff aside into a purge sale area and get rid of it, and not just get rid of it, but make some money on it. So real life example, I actually did this. I've been kind of purging, and as I'm decluttering, I have a tub that's purge stuff, that's sell stuff, and I just throw it in that bin. And I posted stuff over the weekend, and just in the 2 days that I posted over the weekend, I made about $75. Now that's not a huge amount of money, but that's $75 I didn't have. So that money can then go into my emergency fund, and I have $75 more. And if it's in a fund that is interest, then I'm going to make even more. And so that's $75 more plus that interest that it might grow. So do those little things, do those purging, do that online yard sale kinds of things, to try to make that little bit of extra income. Another way that we can kind of help pay ourselves a little bit is to make use of, if you have credit and debit cards, find the ones that have rewards. So many of them will have where you earn points towards purchases, or if you earn money back whenever you use it. So one of my checking accounts has a percent every month. So if it gives me like basically an interest rate on my checking account, which is really pretty neat because it's money that is just there. And so it's not money that I'm trying to save for long term. It's just my standard checking account. So that's a cool reward. I know people that have a credit card that they use solely for certain purchases, which if you're going to have a credit card, you need to make sure you can pay it. But she uses it and she earns rewards and points, and those points then pay for their Disney trip every year. So that's a really great benefit when you're able to use it like that. So check out those, look for some of those rewards, but you always have to be aware of with credit cards, especially. But if you are someone who can pay off, that credit, then those rewards would be really helpful for you. And you can use those rewards to pay for the Christmas, or you can use them to add to that emergency fund at the end of every year. Lots of different options with that. Another is the store rewards. And so anytime you go shopping, it seems like every store nowadays has those. Join our rewards program, join our rewards program. And you should, if it's somewhere you shop often, you should join their rewards program. As an example, I shop a lot at Schnucks because it's like literally 2 minutes from my house. But their rewards program, I've saved like $100 every 6 months just from their rewards. So it's stuff I buy anyway, and then I get money back too. And that helps that budget. It helps that spending plan. And so then, like I talked about, the checking account with interest. So there's lots of different ways that you can add income, that you can find different ways to take advantage of some of those different programs and resources. So check out what works. If you have a great idea too, please feel free to share that in a chat with everyone else, because we all learn best from each other. So one thing to do to help really bolster that emergency fund, to find some ways to get some of those retirement savings or other savings going, is to add that income. But then we also want to look at ways we can help cut our expenses. And so sometimes by cutting those expenses, it opens that money to then be able to be used for the emergency fund or for those savings goals. So one of the big things to do is to look at those things that you're paying for every month. Your basic utilities, your water, sewer, gas, trash, electric, those kinds of bills might not be able to be cut significantly, but you can look at ways that you can conserve water. You can look at ways you can conserve that electricity and gas bill. So look at those too. So look at what you're doing. There's all kinds of tips for conserving electricity, conserving that gas, that you can look into. And again, it may only be, $20 a month, even $10 a month, but that's $10 a month that you can build. And if you have $10 a month every single month, that adds up pretty quickly. And especially if you can take that and say, okay, I'm gonna make sure that $10 then goes to this emergency fund. That's going to make your emergency fund a lot more manageable and a lot easier and faster to get built up. So something else you can do is look at some of those extra subscriptions and monthly bills. So your cable, your streaming services, other kinds of subscriptions. If you get the beauty bags, or if you do other kinds of I just blinked on any other monthly subscription that could possibly be. But look at those, and you would be amazed just by making a phone call how you can cut some of those. Even your phone. And no, you do not need the absolute most current phone out there, right? And so I may be preaching to the choir with this, but look at some of those bills and look at some of those expenses and say, do I really need to be spending that much money? I personally have been taking a look at some of those things too. And I'm like, okay, do I really need to have Hulu and Disney Plus and Netflix and this? And, do you need all of those? Can you cut one or two of those out? The answer might be no, but it could be possible to look at some of those ways too. And so cutting some of those subscriptions, even finding a different kind of cable company or, different kind of service, shop around, make some phone calls, spend some time to invest in yourself. So the third one, the impulse buying, I giggle because I'm not great about this personally. So yeah, and Chelsea, I see it. It's tough, especially when our computers are right in front of us. We're like, ooh, that's 50% off. So look at that impulse buying. And this is where programs like our Where Does Your Money Go and creating a really strong spending savings plan will help you cut that impulse buying. Because when you really write down everything that you're spending, you see, oh my gosh, did I really just spend that much money on takeout this month? Did I really just spend that much money on clothes this month? Why does anyone need that many clothes, right? And if you question that, we have a colleague in our state who I think she owns 10 articles of clothing or 13 articles of clothing. And that's what she wears. And it's just incredible. And she looks fabulous every time we see her. So it is possible. You don't need closets full of clothes. So look at that impulse buying. And so take whatever you're taking away from the impulse buying, put it toward that savings, right? Even things as simple as cutting out bottled drinks. Again, when you write down how much you spend, so if you're a soda drinker, if you're even a bottled water drinker, look at how much you're spending on those things every month, and you'll be shocked at how expensive they are. And so when you can cut that out, buy a Brita filter if you have, poor water, buy gallons of water, you can find other ways to buy some of those bottled things, but use that savings to put towards something else, toward your savings goals. And then your fast food delivery fees. So those can be just astronomical, especially, services, and nothing against Grubhub and Uber. I Uber Eats and things like that. I use them too sometimes. But when you look at all those fees and charges, you're spending probably twice as much on that food as if you were to go to the store and buy it and make it yourself. So look at those kinds of things. Joe had a really great point. Look at, and Kristen, I saw hers pop up as well, but so call your cable company, see what kind of offers they give you on different subscriptions, different services. Sometimes they will bundle those streaming or provide streaming if you use their service. I think it was Verizon did it offer where if you have their certain service that you get streaming for, certain streaming for free. So check into those things, look at what's available. Check with your family. Sometimes you can bundle if you have family deals, or share, sometimes you can share a subscription cost with different family members on different devices. So check into all of those things. Save yourself money, give yourself that extra head up to get that emergency fund built up. Lots of options. So some other kind of non-traditional, out of the box kinds of things of ways to either save money or maybe make a little bit of extra income. So when something breaks, our first inclination is going to be to replace it. And so I would challenge you to look at if it's something that can be repaired, because sometimes it can be repaired. But sometimes we can't, but sometimes it could be something that, okay, how can I fix this, instead of just saying, well, I gotta buy something brand new. So look into those kinds of things. There's a lot of DIY fix it yourself things. Obviously, if it's, electrical or plumbing, you probably need to hire a professional, but some of those things you can do at home and fix yourself. Instead, if you don't like the look of a coffee table, look at refinishing it, look at painting it, staining it differently before just automatically going to a fix, to a replacement. So with that, if you do need to replace something or buy something, look at used. There's just like when you are purging and selling your things online, other people are doing the same. So you can buy really good quality things a lot of times used. You always need to be aware and be safe when you're shopping online, especially someone you don't know. But look at consignment shops. My first apartment that I that that I rented. When I moved back here to Evansville, I furnished the entire apartment with really nice quality. I had leather couch, I had really nice stuff, for less than $600. So I shopped all consignment shops and got some really great deals. So there's a lot of really good high quality used things out there. So shop used as much as you can, and that will help save some money that way. Do some trade-ins. So there is some really interesting apps and websites out there. If you have a ton of books, movies, DVDs, things like that you're not using anymore, look at some of the trade-in sites or sell sites. So I used an app, and again, I'm not endorsing, but I just had a personal experience with an app called Declutter. And I just thought, I'm going to get rid of these books. Let's see what I can get for them. And I ended up being able to get over $100 from a box of books that I was just going to give away. So again, it's little bits and little amounts, but all that can help add a little extra income or help you save money in the long term that way. If you're a big book reader, if your kids are big book readers, if you like to listen to audiobooks and things like that, use your library. Libraries, especially, and I don't know your specific area library, but I know like the Evansville Vanderburg Library has a wonderful assortment of audiobooks that are for free because you use your library card to use them and unlock them. And it's just amazing the things that you can listen to and check out books and things like that, and movies. Don't buy new movies, go see if the library has what you're looking for. So use those library resources, use those other free resources to listen to for your entertainment and things like that. The last thing is, a lot of people struggle with gifts. We spend a lot of money on gifts, and people love to give gifts. People love to receive gifts, but rethink your gift giving. So be really creative with what you give as far as physical giving, and also look at giving of time. That may be a little bit more difficult these days, but even just spending virtual time might be helpful too. But instead of going and buying brand new, $6 greeting cards a piece, make your own. And you don't have to be super creative. You can buy lots of templates and things and print things out online, or buy card making kits and things like that. But look at how you're gift giving. Look at what you're giving, how you're giving it, and see if you can be creative. If you have children or grandchildren, they're really great at being creative with fun gifts. But think outside of the box with some of those things. Sometimes giving the gift of time is more special than physical gifts too. And a lot of times that giving of your time is not costly, and that can save you money. So what other ideas do you all have for how you can either pay yourself or give extra income or save money to then put that money into an emergency fund, or even just give yourself some stress relief? Because sometimes when we can allow ourselves some space with our funding, and we're not stressing at the end of every month because we're not sure when we're going to get the money to buy our groceries, that could be a huge savings of your sanity even. So looking at some of those resources and ideas there. So there's we've talked about some technology. There's a lot of really great tools out there that can help you get started. So there's apps, there's online sites, there's even ways that you can get printed materials. I've seen a lot of financial planning kinds of tools that are printed out if you're not a computer person. But the biggest thing is that we need to make an action plan. So I again challenge you guys to leave today, leave this recording wherever you're at, wherever you're watching it, and make yourself a plan. So the first thing you have to do, and this is where our SMART goals come back in. If you watched our webinar series in January, we talked about setting SMART goals. So this fits with our financial especially. So you have to set goals for yourself. They have to be specific. You can't just say I want to save more money. be really specific. Take those ideas, those spending goals that Chelsea gave you guys, those different, I want to say for college, I want to go on a trip, I want to buy a new TV, I want to, whatever that goal is, make it really specific. Make it something that you can actually make payments toward or make progress toward, to look and see, to make it measurable. Make it something that you can do. So you can't say, if you are struggling to make ends meet every month, you can't say, I'm going to save for a European vacation for a week. I want to do this summer in 3 months, right? So that's probably not real attainable. But if you make it for, in 2 years, I want to be able to take my family to Disney World, that's an attainable goal, right? That has a good, something you could probably save for. You want to make it realistic. So again, we want it to be something that we can actually do, and not just something that, well, it'd be great to be a millionaire, but, and you could be a millionaire potentially, right? So, but I'm probably not going to be a millionaire next month or next year even. And then time. So you have to give yourself a time limit. You can't just say, oh, I want to save more money, or I want to be able to, be a millionaire. You got to give yourself, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 50, or I want to retire when I'm 65, or, whatever that is. You have to give yourself a timeline and a time limit. So to be able to do that, to set those SMART goals, we have to have a budget, because we have to know where our money's going. If I don't know where my money's going, I'm not going to be able to make any kinds of adjustments easily to be able to set that, to make those goals. So budget yourself, find those ways to pay yourself, set those goals, and then create a plan. So a spending savings plan of, I'm going to cut this out, and then that money then is going to go every month. This much money is going to go into the savings plan so that we can make that goal. Small steps. It has to be small steps. If you're starting from nothing, you have to make small steps, because otherwise you're not going to get there, and you're just going to get frustrated and overwhelmed. So start small, even if it's just getting a $500 emergency fund. Get to that $500 emergency fund. And then once you get there, you're going to say, oh, that was pretty easy, or wow, I could actually do that. Then you can build from there. So small steps. So I talked about our Where Does Your Money Go program. It's a fantastic program. My colleague, Joe, who's on the call today, and I are planning one in March. So if you're interested in learning about that, we have a flyer here. We're going to get you that information so that you can register and join us for that program. We have a lot of past webinars that can really help with some of the topics we've talked about today, that go more in depth than what we were able to today. So we have a YouTube channel for our area. So you can go there and look at all kinds of different videos, but these are the ones that I thought were really helpful for what we're talking about today, talking about food budgeting and meal planning, talking about decluttering, and even ones on curbing the urge to splurge. And that one's specific to holidays, but it's still helpful information any time of the year to help us cut some of that impulse buying. So check out those webinars, plus our other great videos we have on there. And it is Money Saves Week, as Chelsea mentioned. So there's lots of different things. If you go to the americasavesweek.org, there's tons of resources out there. There's some really interesting, great information. They have webinars and information on there. So each day they have different topics. So today, talking about saving automatically. So they'll talk about ways that you can auto save, not have to think about it, not have to take money away from what you're wanting to spend to put it somewhere else. They're talking about building that financial, they call it an immune system, or an emergency fund, talking about retirement. Thursdays is looking at debt and helping pay down that debt. And then family savings and budgeting and getting your kids involved with that. So lots of different cool resources in addition this week for Money Saves Week that you can check out. It's americasavesweek.org. You can go there and check that out. So if you are a ongoing attendee of our webinar series, we have really enjoyed doing these series, and we are not stopping our education from Purdue Extension. We're adjusting things just a little bit. So next month is National Nutrition Month. And so our colleague Tanya Short in Knox County is providing a webinar series throughout the month of March. And you can see it's kind of small there, but there's webinars on Thursdays in March. And she's going to cover a lot of different topics on there. Another a webinar series class that we're providing is called Dining with Diabetes. And this is a really great webinar series focusing on nutrition to help prevent or manage type 2 diabetes. So it's a great program if you are at risk for diabetes, if someone you love is at risk for diabetes or has type 2 diabetes. It's a wonderful program. We have lots of great resources, lots of recipes that are really yummy and delicious that we're going to share. So check those both out. There's lots. So we're continuing our webinars. We're just not necessarily going to continue our weekly Monday Lunch and Learns, but check those out for more information. And of course, as with all of our Purdue Extension programs, we want to know what you learned. It helps us to tell the story of how we're having an impact in our community. So we have a short evaluation. If you can take just a couple minutes to fill that out after today, we would really appreciate it. You can do it through your phone. It'll send you a text link that you can go to on your phone to complete it, or you can go to this website and complete it there. And we appreciate any input you have for our programming. And of course, we are always open to ideas for future programs. So we want to thank you so much for being with us today. Again, please feel free to put questions and other comments in the chat there. And of course, we'll send a follow-up email after today to you with the recording of this program and additional resources for you as well. And with that, I think I'm going to check the chat for questions. If you need a certificate of attendance, thank you for the reminder, Joe. If you need a certificate of attendance, please put your name in the chat box for us.
Megan, can you drop the link to the survey in the chat box? It won't let me.
I did not have it pulled up, so I gave you control
Okay.
back. So hopefully you can do that now. We might have to unshare and then.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to. Okay.